Have you ever, stopped and thought about how humans started talking?
Yeah.
It's different from other evolutionary mysteries, right?
Yeah.
We can't dig up ancient words.
Yeah.
So today we're going to dive into the very origin of human language. We've got some fascinating research for you.
Right.
Really cool notes. It all centers around this gene called NOVA1.
Okay.
And a brand new study that might just rewrite what we know about how we learn to speak.
It's true. We can't dig up ancient words or sentences, so we have to, get creative.
Yeah.
And that's where genetics comes in.
Right.
It's like a secret code embedded in our very cells, offering clues to our evolutionary past.
Okay, so we're talking DNA, genes, like the blueprint of life.
Right.
But how do we get from that to something as complex as language? It seems like a huge leap.
Think of our brains as like these incredibly intricate machines.
Yeah.
With language as one of its most amazing functions. The blueprint for building those brains and those language circuits is in our DNA. What researchers have discovered is that a gene called NOV1 plays a crucial role in how our brains develop.
Gotcha.
Particularly those areas that control speech and language.
So NOVA1 is like the conductor of the language orchestra in our brains. What's so special about this gene?
Well, for starters, scientists have found a tiny mutation in the human version of NOVA1. That sets us apart from our extinct relatives, the Neanderthals and Denisovans. We're talking about a single amino acid change.
Wow.
Like swapping out one tiny ingredient in a complex recipe.
A single change. Wow, that's incredible. It makes you wonder how such a small tweak could potentially lead to something as profound as language.
It does, and that's exactly what researchers wanted to figure out.
Oh.
They used CRISPR technology to give mice the human version of NOVA1.
Wait, hold on. They created mice with a human gene.
They did.
Is that even possible?
CRISPR is a revolutionary gene editing tool that allows us to precisely alter DNA sequences.
Wow.
And in this case, it allowed scientists to isolate the effect of that single amino acid change in NOVA1.
That's mind-boggling. So what happened to these mice? Did they start, speaking in full sentences?
Not quite. Mice aren't people, and their vocalizations are fundamentally different from human speech. But the researchers observed a fascinating change. The mice with the human NOVA1 gene had more complex vocalizations, particularly their distress calls and mating songs.
Interesting. So their squeaks and chirps got a bit fancier. But how do we jump from modified mouse sounds to the evolution of human language? It still feels like a big leap.
You're right to be cautious.
Yeah.
We can't draw a direct line from mice to humans. What's important is that the NOVA1 mutations seem to affect the complexity of their vocalizations.
Okay.
This suggests that NOVA1 might play a role in fine-tuning the brain circuits involved in vocal learning. Not just for mice, but potentially for our ancestors as well.
So it's not about the sounds themselves, but about the underlying brain power needed for complex communication.
Yes.
Like NOVA1 provided the blueprint for a more advanced language system.
Precisely. Think of it this way. Imagine building a skyscraper. You need a strong foundation to support all those complex structures. In this analogy, NOVA1 might be part of that foundational structure,
Right.
providing the necessary groundwork for the evolution of more intricate vocal patterns.
Okay, I'm starting to see how NOVA1 fits into this grand puzzle of language evolution.
Yeah.
But it can't be the whole story, right? There's got to be more to it than just one gene.
Absolutely. NOVA1 is a fascinating piece of the puzzle, but it's just one piece. Language evolution is an incredibly complex process involving the interplay of multiple genes, environmental pressures, and social dynamics.
So it's like a recipe with many different ingredients, each contributing to the final flavor. We know about NOVA1.
Right.
We've talked about FOXP2, that other famous language gene. But what are some of the other ingredients in this language evolution recipe?
Well, there's a whole supporting cast of genes involved in shaping our brains and cognitive abilities. Think about the mental processes you use every time you speak or listen, like understanding word meanings, remembering grammatical rules, making connections between ideas.
Yeah, it's like language is the ultimate mental workout, engaging all these different parts of our brains.
Exactly. And we're learning more and more about how genes contribute to those cognitive abilities, things like working memory, social cognition, even the capacity for abstract thought. All of these are crucial ingredients in the language evolution recipe.
So it's not just about making sounds. It's about having the brain power to use those sounds in meaningful and complex ways.
Precisely. And as our ancestors developed these cognitive abilities, it likely created a positive feedback loop, further driving the evolution of language. More complex brains could handle more complex communication, which in turn selected for even more sophisticated cognitive abilities.
Fascinating. It's like language and cognition co-evolved, each pushing the other to new heights. But what about the role of our ancestors' environment? Did that play a part in shaping language as well?
Absolutely. The environment provides both the context and the raw materials for language evolution. Imagine early humans living in diverse environments, some in lush forests, others on open grasslands. Their communication needs would have varied depending on the challenges and opportunities presented by their surroundings.
That makes sense. If you're trying to coordinate a hunt on the savannah, you might need a different set of communication skills than if you're navigating a dense forest.
Exactly. And the environment also influences the types of sounds and concepts that get encoded into language. For example, a culture living in a mountainous region might have a richer vocabulary for describing different types of terrain compared to a culture living on flat plains.
So language is shaped by the world around us, the things we see, hear, touch, and experience. It's like a reflection of our environment woven into words and grammar.
Precisely. And there's one more crucial ingredient we need to add to this mix: culture.
Culture. I usually think of culture in terms of art, music, and traditions. How does that tie into language evolution?
Language is not just a biological phenomenon, it's also a cultural one. It's passed down from generation to generation, shaped by the beliefs, values, and customs of a community.
So each culture adds its own unique flavor to the language, creating a tapestry of dialects, slang, and idiomatic expressions.
Exactly. And culture also influences how we use language. The topics we discuss, the ways we express emotions, even the rules of etiquette that govern our conversations. Think about how differently people might greet each other or express gratitude depending on their cultural background.
It's like saying language is a mirror reflecting the soul of a culture, its history, values, and worldview.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And by studying the languages and cultures of different societies, we can gain a deeper understanding of not just how people communicate, but also how they think, feel, and interact with the world around them.
This is giving me a whole new perspective on language. It's not just about words and grammar. It's a window into the human experience.
Precisely. And when we combine these insights from genetics, cognitive science, anthropology, and linguistics, we start to piece together a richer and more nuanced understanding of how language evolved.
Okay, so we've explored all these different ingredients in the language evolution recipe. Genes, brains, environment, and culture. It's clear that no VA1 plays a fascinating role, but it's just one piece of a very complex puzzle.
Absolutely. And there are still many unanswered questions about the specific ways in which these factors interacted to shape language over millions of years. But one thing's for sure, the story of language evolution is a testament to the incredible ingenuity and adaptability of the human species.
I'm curious, knowing what we do now about no VA1 and its potential role in shaping vocal complexity, does it give us any clues as to whether Neanderthals and Denisovans might have had language?
That's a question that has sparked a lot of debate and research. We know that Neanderthals and Denisovans weren't just simple brutes. They created art, used sophisticated tools, and even buried their dead with rituals. These were intelligent beings capable of complex thought.
So it seems unlikely they were completely mute. But if they did have language, was it anything like ours?
That's the million-dollar question. It's possible that their languages, if they existed, were less complex or less efficient at conveying certain types of information, especially abstract ideas.
Could that have put them at a disadvantage compared to early humans with more sophisticated language abilities?
It's certainly a possibility. More complex language might have allowed early humans to share information more effectively, coordinate activities with greater precision, and transmit knowledge across generations with greater fidelity.
That makes sense. A more powerful communication system could have given them a real edge in a world full of challenges.
Precisely. But it's important to remember that we're still piecing together this puzzle. We can't say for certain what Neanderthal or Denisovan language was like, or even if it existed in a form we would recognize as language today. What we can do is keep asking questions, analyzing the evidence, and refining our understanding of this remarkable evolutionary journey.
So we're left with more questions than answers. But that's what makes this field so exciting. There's still so much to discover and explore. But before we get too lost in speculation, let's bring it back to the present. How does all this knowledge about language evolution impact our lives today?
It might seem like ancient history, but understanding language evolution can actually help us in some very real ways today. For example, it can inform our approaches to language education. By recognizing the deep biological and cultural roots of language, we can create more effective teaching methods that tap into those innate capabilities.
So instead of just, memorizing grammar rules, we should be focusing on how language actually works, in the brain and in social context.
Exactly. And it can also help us develop better therapies for people with speech and language disorders. By understanding how language is processed in the brain, we can target interventions more precisely and help people overcome those challenges.
That's amazing. It's like we're using ancient knowledge to solve modern problems. It also makes me wonder, how does this research into language evolution impact fields like artificial intelligence? We hear so much about AI these days. Are there connections there?
Absolutely. The insights we gain from studying human language evolution can inform how we design and develop AI systems, especially those that involve natural language processing. By understanding how humans acquire, process, and generate language, we can build smarter machines that can communicate more effectively with us.
It's like we're trying to crack the code of human language and then teach it to machines.
In a way, yes. We're learning from the best model we have, the human brain. And the more we understand about how language evolved, the better equipped we'll be to create AI that can truly understand and respond to our needs.
That's incredible. It feels like we've only, scratched the surface of this topic.
Yeah.
What are some of the big unanswered questions that scientists are still grappling with in the field of language evolution?
One of the biggest mysteries is pinpointing exactly when and where language first emerged. Was it a gradual process over hundreds of thousands of years, or was there a sudden spark that ignited human communication? And did it happen in one specific location, spreading outwards, or did it arise independently in multiple populations? These are questions that continue to fascinate and challenge researchers.
Yeah, it's like trying to find the missing pieces of a giant puzzle, with clues scattered across continents and millennia. It makes you wonder if we'll ever have, a definitive answer.
We might uncover even more layers of complexity as we go. Another question that keeps scientists up at night is why language evolved in the first place. What were the evolutionary pressures that drove the development of such a complex and costly system of communication? Was it primarily for social bonding, information sharing, or something else entirely?
Those are great questions. It makes you appreciate just how unique and complex language is. No other species on Earth has anything quite like it.
Exactly. And the more we learn about language evolution, the more we realize how deeply it's intertwined with our humanity, our cognitive abilities, and our social interactions.
So to bring this all back to our listener, what's the one key takeaway you want them to walk away with today?
I'd say it's this. Language is more than just a tool for communication. It's a window into our evolutionary past, a reflection of our cognitive abilities, and a testament to the power of human creativity and ingenuity. Every time you speak, listen, or even think, you're tapping into a system that has been millions of years in the making, a system that has shaped who we are and continues to shape our world.
Beautifully put. I think that's a great note to end on. This has been an incredible deep dive into the origins of human language. We've explored fascinating research on the NOVA1 gene, considered the role of genetics and the environment, and even pondered the communication abilities of our extinct relatives.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you. Hopefully our listener has a newfound appreciation for the symphony of language that's constantly playing in their minds.
And if this deep dive has sparked a curiosity, we encourage you to explore further. There are countless resources available online, in libraries, and even in your own community. Keep asking questions, keep learning, and most importantly, keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep diving deep.